for it. It's happening.
Sour gummy bears are the best.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name is Brody, and this week I am joined by my co-host Brian as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best in a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from the Clone Wars Season 2, Episodes 9 and 10. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where these pieces of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. With that, Brian, you're back.
I'm back. Only took me a
Amanda's
couple
not.
weeks. Amanda's not. We just can't line each other up properly.
Did you guys? You think you're on like shifts for who can actually tolerate Brody, and you just picking
One
and
at a
choosing.
time.
You're like, look, you got him this weekend. We'll take him next weekend.
Hey, the family will be back together soon enough. We're gonna start the year
Except
off
no one's
strong.
fighting for custody. Everyone's like trying to pass me off.
Passing him off. I mean, no, that's not it.
Now I'm really convinced it's it by that. Like, couldn't think of a better answer.
Definitely not.
But there's something. We know there's something now because you said there's an it. So before I cry too much, why don't we talk about what episodes 9 and 10 were about, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Episode 9 is Grievous Intrigue, in which Grievous boards Jedi Master Eth Koth's ship and takes him hostage. The Jedi Council sends Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Adi Gallia out to the Seleucami system. The plan is for Obi-Wan to bait Grievous into boarding his ship so Anakin, Adi, Rex, and a clone trooper squad can break into the destroyer and rescue Master Koth. Kenobi and Grievous have an epic battle while Anakin and Adi predictably fall into Grievous's plot and have to take out a number of commando droids before saving Eth Koth.
Yeah.
And in episode 10, yeah, that's what I said too. In episode 10, The Deserter, one of the more memorable episodes of this season, IMO, Grievous attempts to escape on a landing ship, but it sustains damage and is forced to land below on the planet Seleucami. Obi-Wan orders Rex to take a group of clones to split up and search for Grievous. While searching, Rex gets injured by 2 surviving commando droids and is taken to a nearby farm to recover. It turns out the farm is owned by a former clone trooper, Cut LaQuaine, and his family. Cut's children stumble upon a crashed separatist escape pod and accidentally activate a platoon of commando droids. LaQuaine and Rex defend the farm, and Grievous still manages to barely escape Kenobi. Grievous!
You know what's really unfortunate for me about this review tonight?
Mm-hmm.
So last week, or the last time I recorded with Amanda, we talked about these 2 episodes, but there was a download issue. So we weren't able to keep the recording. So this is the second time I am doing this review, but now I really do feel like a kid that's being passed off between parents because now I got to go say the exact same thing I said to mom. Now I got to go to dad and say the
What do
exact
you mean?
same
You get 2
thing.
Christmases now.
I guess so. I don't know. Yep.
The first one was pretty I legit forgot about this episode's existence until I watched it today. Like this wasn't just an intro sequence. I thought that nothing really new or inventive happens. Like I remember the Grievous and Obi-Wan duel because I remember thinking, oh, this is a lot like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels to it, but pretty much everything else that happens is pretty forgettable.
In the Grievous Intrigue episode, I thought something that was interesting was Amanda brought this up last week. How what's a male Dathomirian called?
Eth Koth.
Anyway, yeah, that's what he is, and I was like, oh, that guy from that, like it's basically Darth Maul with hair. I get that's cool. I never knew that. So yeah, that was something neat. I did think it was interesting though how he was a complete like just jerk about the fact that hey, he was rescued, and the response he's like, I would gladly have died if it
You
meant
should have let me die.
like, well, guy, my friend, let me tell you, like, that wasn't on the cards, and even if they would have let you die, so to speak, that wouldn't have changed them getting Grievous or not. So just say thank you, accept the fact that you were not left to die.
Yeah, they cared enough to send some of the best Jedi they had, honestly. I was, I wouldn't risk Anakin and Obi-Wan for that guy, but
You're playing Jedi like they're a poker game. Like
they're pawns in a war. That's kind of what they turn into.
yeah, who are you willing to risk? Not Anakin and Obi-Wan. Saving
They
those cards.
Obi-Wan super almost dies. Like if he hadn't accidentally gotten stuck on Grievous's ship, that cruiser exploded like right after.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan got super lucky, and then Anakin's like, "Oh, I can come pick you up. I just happened to be right by."
Anakin's always happening to be places at the right time with the right place, meeting the right people. The Chancellor, Padme. I mean, the guy marries a senator, basically becomes a Jedi Master. No one knows about it. He's in with the Supreme Chancellor. I mean, this guy, talk about select of the select of people he knows in his circles.
He's everywhere.
Yeah. And he's also this ultra 1%er with talent. So, I mean, he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to go back and watch these because so many of these episodes, that's the best part about Clone Wars is like you see why are the things that led to Anakin turning, but not this episode. This episode was just a whole lot of, well, we're just gonna put nothing here. And it happened. It's kind of fun. People are gonna like it, and there's not gonna be much story, and then that's it.
There were some cool things. I will say I love commando droids a lot, especially as a Battlefront player. And this episode I thought did them really well. Like I love how they tactically take out Eve Koth. Like they don't shoot their blaster unless they need to because they know that he's going to deflect it. So they play it very strategically, even though they all end up dying, and the Magna Guards have to come in and clean up. Grievous is always there saying, I'm going to engage when I want to, not when I need to. I'm going to let these commando droids kind of have their fun. And I thought their choreography and the fight scenes were pretty well done.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of the episode was kind of meh.
Yeah, it was kind of meh. Anytime, it was cool to see like, oh, hey, Wolf got a redesign. I don't know if you saw that, but now his eye looks all messed up. So that's, we're starting to see Wolf as we know him.
Yeah, and Wolf is one of those clones that sticks around, right? He's the one that survives into Rebels. Yeah.
And something that I think so anyway. Something that Amanda brought up last week that we talked about was Grievous's spider legs in this episode. And just for me as a Battlefront player, I just thought that was so cool because like there's just when he goes into that position, I'm like, oh, this is probably like, is this the first time we see him kind of walking like that and taking that spider shape? And
yeah. And one of his other animations too, where he opens up all four of his lightsabers and does that thrust surge, that's also used in Battlefront. So I think there is some lasting, impact of this episode.
What do you think of Grievous in Battlefront 2?
I think he's annoying. I think all the heroes are kind of annoying, honestly. I would much rather have a game that is all troopers.
Why?
I think it's because they're designed to play campy. Except Anakin. Anakin's the only character that's designed to actually like be aggressive and just run into a room full of droids and destroy them all. Grievous, like Bosk, I think doesn't really. I'm not saying it doesn't take skill to play him, but you can get so many kills by just using abilities, and that's what makes him kind of like cheesy to me. It's like, yeah, Claw Rush can just like take out a ton of people, and like he has super high damage resistance, and then Thrust Surge, you can just attack a jet trooper as they're escaping. It just locks on automatically. And then the spinny one, I don't remember what it's called, but people don't even really use it because it sucks. I don't know. People do that weird little bunny hop thing all the time in Battlefront. They think they're so good and so talented. Like that's not that hard to do. Play a real man's game like Super Smash Brothers Melee. That'll teach you something technical and difficult to execute.
Oh, I do believe that. I do love playing as Darth Vader and Battlefront 2, though. I'll tell you that. But Darth Vader's not in this episode. Not yet, anyway. Right now, he's just that little Anakin guy.
Pretty nice
Um,
dude.
yeah, so Vader someday later, but not today. Just a small fry. All right. Well, overall, I liked the episode the most. I gave it a 73.2. I thought it was enjoyable. I liked the lines. I enjoyed myself throughout. Is it great? No. Amanda gave it a 61.2. You gave it a 51.2.
Mhm.
So, first episode comes out to a 61.87%. Now, the deserter. A lot more happened in this next episode.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we run into what'd you say his name was? Calcutta?
Cut
Yep.
LaQuain.
Cut LaQuain. Yeah, we run into him. He's a deserter. There's a lot you could break down within that episode. So far, I think it's probably one of the better episodes this season, even though it's not jam packed with action by any
Right.
means. But there's still a lot that, we see that when Rex runs into him and he's like, well, you're still a deserter at the end of the day. And that's what you are. And it determines like, well, he's not a coward. At first, it's what he thinks he
Mhm.
is. But you realize, well, this guy wanted something for himself. And for that reason, he automatically and it's just interesting. Oh, you're a deserter. It's like, oh, wow, none of them actually got a choice. And when they want to choose for themselves and not be in the war, well, that's just not an option. You live for this war or and you die for it. That's just it. And so that's the interesting ethical question that's posed this episode for the clones. I think the first time ever.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I think it's the best character progression within an episode that Rex ever gets. You go from seeing him be kind of more of an absolutist, and he's very dogmatic, very dedicated to the Republic, and I love getting to see his motivation. Like, yeah, maybe he does choose to stay in the war. Maybe some of the clones do genuinely see this intrinsic value in their, and that's their purpose in the universe, because this is the most pivotal moment for the Republic. And if we give up and the Seppies win, then I'll never be able to live with myself. Like, so it's, even if they were kind of born into it, thrust into this role against their will, they have found purpose and meaning in it. So it's difficult for him to kind of accept that there could be anything outside of that. Especially, it's especially difficult confronting someone who literally has your exact same brain. And they're trying to tell you the truth. Like, no, we can wake up. We can be bigger than this. We don't have to follow our programming. We can choose a life for ourselves. And I think it sets Rex up to be eventually becoming more of a rebel. I think that it kind of is the first step in his journey and aligning with, hey, let's, save what we can in the galaxy, fight for something that's worth it, with family and love and things like that, not just this evil, corrupt Republic.
Obviously, this episode paints Rex as a villain. And so my question for you is like, knowing that he should have brought Cut in to justice, because obviously he was programmed to fight in a war and he didn't. And so the fact that I can't even get this out laughing. The fact that Rex didn't do his due diligence. I mean, come on now. Rex broke protocol there, but he didn't for Order 66. What the heck, man? Like,
what's more important, really? Some Jedi. There's a lot of anti-Jedi sentiment in these episodes.
I don't know, man.
Mostly from Grievous, but
I just thought it was funny. It's just like, all right, you got this guy who's like, he's hardwired to be this one certain way, and they're always, I don't know. The clones are like that. You know what I mean? They're going to go out of their way and follow their programming, so to speak, because there's chips that tell them to do so. But in some cases, we're gonna have a heart and let people off, and I mean that's fine. But ultimately, it was another thing that just kind of felt like you scratched the surface of something cool here, but ultimately was inconsequential because it's never brought back up later. All we see is like, oh, okay, the clones can change their opinions. The clones can have a change of heart. But then there's this inhibitor chip.
But do they?
Yeah. Like, that's just dumb. That's dumb story. I think that's dumb storytelling.
The inhibitor chip is dumb storytelling?
I'm not a fan of the inhibitor chips. Battlefront 2, the original one, had such a better storyline where they were like, yeah, we loved some of the Jedi, but we killed those folks. We killed all of them. And then nobody talked that day. That was our Tuesday. Like that was a much more real storyline that I'm like, oh yeah, because most of them, by the way, weren't friends with the Jedi.
Mhm.
They just worked for them. And then they got orders and they're like, all right, I guess we're doing this now.
It's pretty dark.
And yeah, it's clone troopers and stormtroopers are way scarier when you just think of them as these just order following warmongers.
Mhm. But for a kid's story, you think that the clones would be likable if they hadn't wrapped it up that way, if they had just said, "Oh, well, we don't know what happens." they just they just
Yeah,
all agree to, turn on their Jedi instantly. I don't know. It would have been hard to ever go back and watch the Clone Wars
but we
after.
already did do that where there's like some that didn't act out or when they tried to, like Rex was saved and then the Bad Batch didn't work for them. It's like when you're having to create a whole new group of clones just that weren't affected by the inhibitor chip, why don't we just not have an inhibitor chip and then have like 10% of clones be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I think that's way more interesting of a story.
That would have been cool. I would love to see that clone rebellion like you see in the old Battlefront 2, that the Camino
Yeah.
mission. Yeah, that's cool stuff. And I think the Bad Batch is kind of tying in some of those themes. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And obviously, you do see Cut LaQuaine come back in the Bad Batch, and Rex
Yep.
knows to go to him because he's someone he can trust. So there's a little bit of continuity, a little bit of consequence to this episode now that Bad Batch is kind of continuing it. But seeing eventually the clones fight for something more worth it than some government that they were, just kind of born into, I think that's going to be a really fulfilling part of that arc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't reel it too much. I did give it a 78.8%, which means I liked it the most of all of us. That to be said, the Seleucamite arc is sitting at a 66.47%, which is, as of right now, that's number 1, 2, 3, the 4th place overall for any of the arcs we've reviewed. So
yeah, the Deserter definitely brings it up for me. I think there's so many good things in that episode. Like you said, it's not action packed. I forgot how action packed it actually was. Like there's all the cutaways between Obi-Wan chasing down Grievous. You get that super cool shot of the ATTE that shoots the missile out of the air as it's like coming for it. You get to see Obi-Wan do a flippy flip off of the AT-AT and lands and ignites his lightsaber. Super cool.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, okay, so if I go into our rankings here, it looks like as far as season 1 was concerned, that paced for us at a 58.22%. Whereas right now, if I pull this up, how it's all pacing, I mean, this has already been a much more solid season as far as the arcs are concerned. It's sitting at a 72.25%. So that's nuts. I mean, that's a huge improvement from season 1. Huge improvement.
Yeah, nothing too hateable so far, really, other than
nothing too
the one
lovable
episode
either.
I hate. Yeah, at best, or at worst, it's just kind of forgettable. But that doesn't, episodes like Grievous Intrigue don't bring it down so much that episodes like The Deserter don't really shine through.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was fun. Like I said, a bit inconsequential, but for me, it gets a C. It's passable. So I enjoy it. I don't love it, but I can watch it. So that's these 2 episodes. Do you have a hot take tonight, sir?
I do. I don't know if it's the hottest take, but I've definitely. Oh, should we just do the transition first?
We should.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time. And Brian, you have a hot take.
Once the intro will finish. There we go. Yeah, so I don't know. Something that really annoys me about Star Wars fans, no offense to any Star Wars fans in the audience, I think they get a little over attached to memes, and it kind of influences how they actually remember certain pieces of media. And one thing that kind of annoys me is how, I mean, I absolutely love the Tarkovsky Clone Wars. I love that portrayal of Grievous. I think he's super cool and scary. But I don't like seeing everyone say that, oh, they totally butchered Grievous in the animated show, and Grievous is just like this lame, coughing, like mean henchman kind of villain. I don't think that's true at all. I think, especially like the greatest value in Grievous intrigue is that they visually and thematically portray him as, you know, as that big, tall, over domineering kind of villain. And in his choreography, and he can keep up with Obi-Wan, who, you know, killed Maul. Like, Grievous is not this lame villain that people make him out to be in the Clone Wars. Just because the art style is like a little bit more kid friendly, and, you know, you don't see him doing a handstand and fighting with his feet against four different Jedi at the same time. Like, I don't know. I love that series. It is pretty silly. You gotta concede. It's at least somewhat goofy, right? The action is very over the top.
No, it's a little goofy. I think, and I brought this up last week, Grievous is a complete wuss. And he pissed me off so much in this episode because he's like wants to go after Obi-Wan. He gets his chance with Obi-Wan. And the moment the tides, like he still has the upper hand. And he's like, haha, all right, I'm in a jet. But not only does he leave, he has the audacity to be like, oh, I want Obi-Wan myself. And then when he tries to go get Obi-Wan, he says, he's like, hey, remember, just like line for line, he's like, until we meet again, Obi-Wan. And he just laughs. And I'm just like, this guy, first off, if you like, you're the one that's choosing to leave. Why are you laughing that, oh, you couldn't get me? It's like that kid that like runs up to another kid in like, you know, preschool or elementary school and pokes him, is like, got you, and then like runs away. And like, you're like, okay, whatever. And then that kid comes back and pokes you again, got you again. And I'm like, well, the dude, like, and like basically said, and as he's running away, be like, but just know I could fight you. That's Grievous. And I'm like, listen, go die. I don't like you. And like, just, you are extremely annoying as a character overall. I want to like Grievous, and it's because of that cartoon that I watched, and that's how I was introduced to him, that I'm like, I go into episode 3 and I'm just like, oh, guys, the reason he coughs, Mace Windu's got a little bit of dark side in him, and, you know, did a force choke on his chest. And people are like, what? So I'm like, yeah, you got to go watch that cartoon. So it was really cool, and it set the stage. And I remember even watching Grievous in episode 3 and thinking, he's not as cool. And that was in live action. And I thought to myself, like all of us have said, well, it probably changed everything when Mace Windu messed his chest up. And he's just not as dynamic as he used to be. And this show, it's the exact same. Like, make Grievous. One thing that was nice is that you could see he is a strategist, because like even the droid does call out, oh, it's impressive. He predicted everything with 100% accuracy of what they would do. So that's at least nice, but there aren't a lot of pros going for Grievous, like especially in the combat sense.
You don't think so? I thought the choreography in this episode was really well done, and you know, Obi-Wan's a very defensive kind of fighter, and Grievous is, you know, he keeps toe-to-toe with him, and he only escapes because, you know, he sees the greater mission. He's not just there for revenge like Maul is. Maul oversteps his bounds all the time because he's trying to go after Obi. But Grievous says, oh, you know, there's a bigger picture here. Yeah, I got to escape, but I mean, might as well kind of taunt on him a bit as I'm doing it. I don't think he's this coward.
But he's a loser. He's a loser. That's basically, he's that guy that misses a really important shot in the game, and then the camera pans to him and he's like smiling about it, like, whatever. I'm like, no, you lost. Own that you lost here. Don't say anything. Just bail. Just
walk away. Just take the hit.
Walk away. Take your L, sir. And it'd be so hard for me not to like bully him if I were Obi-Wan. Every time I see him, be like, I would just like make fun of him before we even start. Like, look, are we gonna do this again? We're gonna start. You're gonna lose probably a limb, and then we're gonna go at it for like another 3 or 4 minutes. Something's gonna happen. I'm nearly gonna die by getting jettisoned to space, but I'm a main, so I'm not going anywhere. And then you're gonna leave. So could we just skip all this and could you just leave?
Just jump out the window for me, please.
Yeah, like please just spare us. So I don't know. That's my take on Grievous. I don't even know if he kills more than just Jedi Padawans. Like really?
Well, what's his name? Nadar wasn't a Padawan. He was a newly appointed knight.
I mean, like he was
Like,
brand new to the game. He was in his probation period.
he does take on Eth Koth, who was a master, and he could have killed him, but he decided to make you suffer because I know that hurts the Jedi so much
what's that
more.
about?
I think it's because they had to just keep continuity. They couldn't just kill Eth Koth because he's in episode 3
Why
in the
did a
background.
different Jedi?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know.
There's a deleted scene from episode 3 of Shaak Ti getting murdered by General Grievous. And it's so funny because Shaak Ti is that character that I think has like 6 or 7 deaths that they've never committed to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's actually a canon death for her now, but I know at one point General Grievous did have her in his kill count for a minute before she was pulled from the deleted scenes. So
yeah, and Shaak Ti is awesome.
do you know how she does? Do you know the canon way of Shaak Ti's death now?
I think it's still not canon, but I think the closest one to canon is like the deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith where Anakin kills her, actually. And every version you see, it's a blue lightsaber through her back. Like even there's like a Clone Wars vision that Anakin has whenever he has the vision of Order 66 of him killing her. And I think that's the closest. I think that's the most accurate as far as I remember. I could be wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking she was dead, and then I saw her in Jedi Force Unleashed, the second one or something.
The first one, yeah. That's yeah. That one's not canon, but
nothing in those games should be canon.
They were fun games, but yeah, pretty also over the top and ridiculous.
Wasn't there a sequence when Vader and Boba Fett don't fight? I don't think they fight, but it's one of those, like, I remember there was like a tense moment or something, and I'm like, wow, Boba's like checking Darth Vader.
I don't remember. I actually haven't beaten the second one. It's one of those games that I start and then I just never finish. I started it at like a couple years ago, like long after it had not become canon, so I just didn't have the motivation to get all the way through it. So I mostly just know the first one.
I just started Jedi Survivor.
Oh, all right. We're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Have you played it yet?
I played it the day it came out, all day, all weekend. I just beat it. That was the only thing I did. That's how I played the first one too. I actually just rented it and just beat it all in one weekend.
What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think Survivor is incredible. It's one of my favorite Star Wars stories. Has some really cool villains, incredible dialogue. I love all the tie-ins with the High Republic era, and that's not even to talk about like the gameplay and you know, just its place in canon alone already for me has a really high ranking up there. I think I listed it pretty high up there on my ranking all Star Wars media.
Yeah. I mean, I am enjoying it. I do really like the gameplay as far as fighting is concerned. Like, it definitely rewards players for not just being button mashers, which is like instinctively what I try to be, and it forces me to say, like, no, there's a method to this. Slow down and get better at playing like this specific way. So I really enjoy that instead of just finding some hack like jumping in the air and striking your lightsaber down over and over. So that's one thing. The thing I don't like about the game so much is there are so many puzzles.
You don't like the puzzles?
There are so many puzzles.
Yeah, for me, the puzzles and the platforming took up a major part of the game. I played it on the cinematic mode, which is the easiest mode. Pretty much all villains are just one hit. I put it on the easiest mode just so I could get through the story. So most 90% of the gameplay was not combat for me, but I kind of like the puzzles. I'm a Zelda fan. I thought it was I think there are a lot of games were kind of inspired by Breath of the Wild, and then Tears of the Kingdom came out around the same time as this, actually. So I think they were kind of trying to ride the wave in that fashion. So I like the puzzles. I like how it ties into, I love like the star maps and things. Anything like that is just super cool to me.
I'm only like halfway through, but I love the character Marin, the Night Sister. I love their relationship too. And like this Jedi and this Night Sister. And unless I'm mistaken, there's like a ton of bad blood going back with those two. I don't know, religions. I don't know what they are, but and it's just like, both orders are like dead now. And what's coming out of that? Here's these two people that are just survivors who are into each other, making something new. And I'm like, look at that. Look at these two.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited to see where the third one goes because KG says bring Cal to live action. Yeah, it's gonna be the best Star Wars trilogy. Whenever it's complete
of all time?
I think it will. Yeah, I think it's a more cohesive story, at least so far, than the original trilogy. Even
what
I think Survivor is comparable to Empire Strikes Back just in terms of just the quality of story and the darkness, the richness of it. I love the dialogue and the tone that they create, and you get to see a little bit of Cal's dark side towards the end. Oh, no spoilers, but it's so interesting. I'm just so excited to see like a more interesting perspective on Jedi and love and how those relationships shouldn't be seen as, they shouldn't be feared. That's exactly where we need to derive our power from. We need to be connected and involved and engaged in relationships and in our families and in the world if we're going to save it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I really like his relationship with Marin. We'll see where things go. I didn't know they were doing a third. Do you think that in the video games, the fact that they've used this story in the video games, do you think they were wasted? Because so many folks and just like a very large percentage of the Star Wars fandom are never going to see this story.
Yeah, that makes me sad. But I think they've kind of gone out of their way to make a lot of the shows feel kind of like a video game. They take a lot from the games into the live action series, especially like Kenobi. Kenobi takes place the same year as Jedi Survivor, so I was hoping to see some more direct and literal crossover between them. We might get that, we might not in the third one, but I think
he's got to die in the third one.
Does he have to, or could they just go live on their own little planet away from everything else and just be happy and chill? And maybe when Rey's Jedi Order comes back, they'll come back into the galaxy or whatever.
Well, so far, that's what I'm seeing right now is like Tariel or Tarmel or something. That like there's a place they're trying to go in this game, and it's like not in the galaxy, and they can hide from the Empire. So no spoilers, but I don't know. Maybe they could go there. But I think Cal should die because Yoda does say, "When I pass, the last of the Jedi will you be?" And so,
or maybe he just leaves the Jedi Order. Maybe a lot of those Jedi that do survive are able to see their weakness and see how limited their vision was because they had become controlled by the Sith and because they had lost their connection and their attachment to other people. And that they realize, if it takes stepping away from the Jedi Order to be happy, to be myself, and to save, the ones I love, and to build something that's going to provide meaning and bring life back into the galaxy after the Empire is done with it, then maybe that's what I have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Cal in live action. I feel like the Mandalorian movie, it would just be shoehorning it too much, but you could at least get Marin in there. Unless she dies, no spoilers. But like, I don't know. I just want to see where incorporating some of these video game characters into live action. I'd love to see where that takes place. I do think, and I don't think this is like crazy to say, but people who play video games, they become so much more attached to these stories than they do with movies or anything else because you really get to immerse yourself in the character's shoes. And not only that, but that of their friends and have more like real dialogue. And it's interesting too because Cal is one of the first characters in Star Wars that it's been, I mean, very often in Star Wars, you're looking through the perspective of a specific character, but there's not really a lot of personality to them or whatever else, like an Andor, same thing. And Cal Kestis is one of those guys where you're like, no, there's a lot of things that are relatable. There's things you like about him, things you might not like about him. And so he's more of an actual like three-dimensional character instead of a lot of main characters in Star Wars shows where like Mando, there's just really not a lot to him. Same thing in the Book of Boba Fett. There's really not a lot to these characters. Ahsoka, not really a whole lot. But Cal, what a concept.
You get a lot of time to spend with these characters when you have a, I don't know how long it takes you to beat it. It takes me like 40 hours to beat a game. I'm really bad at video games, actually.
Yeah, you play in tournaments for them.
Yeah, and I'm still so bad. Oh, man. just one game that I've poured a million hours into. Still not even top 30 in Austin, probably, but that's neither here nor there. I just love the storytelling and, like you said, the immersiveness of these experiences. That's why I love Battlefront so much, is that it's like photorealistic, and these sets that they create for the movies, they're like brought to life, and the armor pieces and the weapons, every detail in Battlefront is just so well catered to, or not catered, but it's like, I don't know, it's like it's taken directly from the movie. You're just in the movies.
Yeah, no, it feels like the music's great. So going back to your hot take, I disagree. I think General Grievous is kind of whack in the shows, unfortunately. But yeah, overall, I much more so agree with all the other things that weren't hot takes, like Jedi should be allowed to love, and the future of Star Wars gaming, and the fact that I will say, like the other thing you said, that this could be the best trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
That's I don't know, my friend. Like
I don't think it's that hard. I mean, I love Return of the Jedi, but like it's not a great movie. And I think like with a solid conclusion, like I think it's pretty clear, like each piece of the Jedi trilogy, it just like fits better and just does more.
Well, I will be interested to see the story for the last game. And you're saying strictly for the story perspective, right?
Yeah, story and music, and
music,
the cinematography, even.
Oh.
Yeah, the music in this game is incredible.
It is really good. It's really good. But the original two films introduce us to like all core Star Wars music.
Mm-hmm. That's usually what the first does.
Yes.
So that's what happens when it's the first one.
Yes, and they're fantastic pieces. You're saying that these two Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor video games have better music than those first just Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back?
Not necessarily. I don't think they necessarily need to be compared. They're two very different mediums. I mean, the Jedi Fallen Order has a much wider range of music and in-universe music, and the things they do musically, like to keep it within the Star Wars canon in the right moments, but then also branch out into the rock and into like the funk and the jazz. I think, I don't know. I'm not saying it's better, but I think video games and having this much screen time just allows for a lot deeper exploration of how those elements all come together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Speaking of deeper, I mean, you even get like, they do branch out into a lot of stuff. You even get Mongolian Deep Throat.
Mm-hmm.
Love that song.
Everyone needs to listen to The Who, and that's spelled H-U, not the old classic rock band.
Yeah.
The Who is the Mongolian folk metal band that they used for
Dude,
these games.
I don't know how they found them. I don't know how they found them, but I started listening to them after they played the first video game. So, do you remember in the first one, there's a scene where you're like in the ring, kind of like Gladiator, and you're having to fight all these guys, and they're playing that song. And a lot of fight sequences, I'm like, I'll move on, whatever. Like, just get this done. When they played that, I was so hyped. Mm-hmm. Are you not entertained? Like, bring me your next one.
Oh, yeah.
Bring me your next champion. It was just like so hyped.
It's a very different experience when you're in control of the character, It like the music affects the way you play. I think that kind of immersion is just something you don't really get in movies.
Yeah, I was I played Jedi Fallen Order last year, and I remember when I went to Dathomir, and when I was playing there, it was the first time like you'd ever played a video game on Dathomir. At least I had, and which that was also like beautifully designed. Anyway, so in that, I remember I had on my like music playlist "Running Up That Hill" by Kate Bush came on,
Oh.
and because I was like Stranger Things was like really big last year, and so I'm like playing the game, and it's like it's got this like Stranger Things version of it, and you hear the clock for the Upside Down, and you're on Dathomir, and it just like, and I'm playing against this white dude who's shirtless, and I'm just like, I'm so hyped right now, like it's so epic, and just feels like so Dathomir in my mind, just for that reason, because music's so powerful. Just I always associate with the Upside Down now.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm excited to get to Dathomir. Is that happening this season of the Clone Wars? We get into some freaking Night Sister stuff in season 3, I think.
Did the Night Sisters, are they terrorists?
Are they terrorists? They're kind of just trying to do their own thing. They're living their peaceful life on their own little planet. They're definitely terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
There's no, it's not illegal to be goth, thankfully. We need more goths out there, please.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Mother Talsa gets into people's heads, and like what she did to Count Dooku. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but he's a bad guy.
Yeah, but she could have done it to a good guy.
Yeah, but did she?
Listen, who's to say Count Dooku was bad? What is morality?
No. Good point. Good point.
Moving on. No, I'm just saying, man, like if she could do that to Count Dooku, and we as the good guys have decided he's a bad guy, which look, I understand he's an antagonist, but it's our point of view. In his mind,
mean to droids.
But from his perspective, they're not sentient. So it's like, why care? Now, I'm not saying whether or not I agree with the decisions he make, because I do disagree. He's like actually a villain. But she could do that to Jedi too.
Mm-hmm.
There's just got to be rules of warfare here. Like, you can't just burn Geonosians with flamethrowers, Kiadi Mundi.
Right. Even if they're icky.
I'm surprised you agreed to that. There's just got to be rules to this stuff. And Mother
Talsa, no, I have more sympathy for droids than Geonosians, but yeah, still pretty.
I don't know. She's, you gotta watch out for her, man. I don't think she's all right up in the head. So
it reminds me of this conversation reminds me of Batman versus Superman. Of, well, Superman could turn on us. Does that mean we should kill him? I don't know. And then big monster, turns out we need him. So maybe we need the Night Sisters, to keep Dooku in check. And that's why they exist as part of the balance of the Force, to balance out the more evil dudes.
Are they Force users? I thought there was just like some magics they practice.
Right. Magic, the Force, it's kind of unclear if like how related they are, but whether they're the same thing or come from the same source, they're all part of the fabric of the universe. And they're still living sentient beings, and the Force resides in all beings.
Yeah. So Marin's not a terrorist. We know
Marin
that.
Is super cool.
Because she's a good guy. We've agreed on this.
So as long as the terrorists are killing the bad guys, then they're not terrorists.
Unless you're Mother Talsa. Like you're possessed by like Sauron or something. I'm not convinced that you are a good person. I actually think she's just unequivocally evil. I'm very confident that she's
what
just.
Does she do or say that makes her seem bad? Just other than she wears red and speaks like with a German accent.
Even Flula Borg.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. All I will say with her is like she brings Darth Maul essentially back from the dead. She does actually bring other people back from the dead. So there's all of that like witchcrafty stuff there. And then on top of that, was Darth Maul's brother also dead that brought back to life, or what was the deal with him? I know she made him like jacked.
Yeah, Hey, ain't nothing illegal about pumping iron.
He didn't pump no iron. He
She
cheated
pumped
his
the
whole way
iron
there.
for him.
He
Yeah.
would be disqualified
Into
from
him.
all of the competitions.
But
He
I
did not
mean,
work for that bod.
that's who really, what does that matter? What's work anyways? It's all about results.
She needs to open up a shop. Mother Talsa's pump up shop. Come on in, and boom, you are enlarged and in charge, just like what's his face, Darth Maul's brother.
Oh, that's sacrilegious to her culture. She only does it for some reasons. I don't remember what the reasons are, but I'm excited to get to them.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. I don't trust the Night Sisters unless they're married. Like, they're terrifying, and you shouldn't trust them. And do the women on that planet are like the men subservient to them? It seems like the two are very separate cultures almost.
Yeah, they keep each other at arm's distance. I think the Zabraks know not to mess with them, and the Night Sisters just have no desire to colonize or to spread. They just kind of want to do their thing and practice magic and just vibe or whatever they do. I don't know what they do.
You have to procreate in some way.
Do they? Star Wars rules are different. There's actually some controversial opinions about how Twi'lek genetics work based on this episode. And so I don't remember exactly what the details of it. I think there's a theory that Cut Lawquane is actually just their stepdad. That it, for some reason, the way they look would have been genetically impossible for a pink Twi'lek to have blue Twi'lek children without, a blue Twi'lek.
Interesting.
Who knows how genetics work in Star Wars?
Did you also notice that the Twi'lek kids were totally like the little boy was like Phil and Lil from the Rugrats?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I recognize it off the bat. It kind of annoyed me a little bit. I think those kids are...
They're annoying.
They're something. They're adorable. They're... Look out, Dad! Watch out!
There's a monster in here! Like, it totally sounds like an adult trying to sound like a child.
Yeah. It's one of those examples of like, I don't know if these writers have ever met a real child. Like the way they dressed them too, like she's wearing that like Little House on the Prairie outfit.
Maybe
kids don't dress like that. I know
maybe
they're on
they
a
do
farm.
Up there, man. You said it. Things in Star Wars world are different. Maybe Cut is trying to live in that Calcutta lifestyle and be out on the prairie, and that's how people dress out there. But we're not going to talk about too much how people dress in Star Wars because, like, look, people dress crazy everywhere, including me. That's been the thing. Princess Leia way back in the day. We're not going to spend time on it. Outfits are crazy in Star Wars. What we are going to spend time talking about is how we'll be back next week for another episode of Duel of the Ranks. This one was kind of everywhere today. Amanda was gone. You and I just kind of ranted.
It's only 2 episodes. One of them was really boring. So
yeah, we talked about it. KG finally watched the episodes this week, and I kind of feel glad because she watched them, and this is what she got, and they were fine. They were mid. Actually, kind of surprised you watched them, KG. I'm really happy about that. We, Brian, we need to get some more guests on this show. We have a lineup of people who want to come on. I've been waiting for KG forever to just jump into the conversation, but now I'm convinced she's never going to buy headphones. She's never going to join the conversation. We're going to have to go to our influencer friends again and bring them on to join us. And you know what? There's a few that have reached out who want to be guests on the show. So we'll be bringing them back, bring them out, let them have some conversations, move this thing forward, have a lot of fun, and it's going to be a good time. So we'll keep doing Duel of the Ranks. We'll be back next week. Brian, any closing thoughts?
Make sure you check us out on all our socials, and that's it. Subscribe, like, share the video, drop your hot takes in the comments, and we'll be back next week.
We'll talk about them at some point. Probably. Just keep putting them in there, and we'll probably talk about one. So, all right, y'all. That is this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Duel of the Ranks. See you then.